Welcome to the Leicester Pelvic Floor Service Conservative Management Clinic. This video is designed to guide you with pelvic floor muscle exercises to help with bowel problems. We hope to help you understand where the pelvic floor muscles are and their job in relation to the bowel, to help you know if you are doing the exercises correctly, and some top tips of what to look for, to understand how many exercises to do and when you should be feeling a difference. These pictures show you where the pelvic floor muscles are. They are side views to the pelvis, with the male model on the left and the female model on the right, and it shows you where the bladder and the bowel are. The red part are the pelvic floor muscles. They act like a sling or harness to the pelvic organs, helping to keep everything in place and helping with the control of the bladder and the bowel. You see how they attach to the coccyx and then run forwards towards the pubic bone. You may be given these exercises to help with the control of your bowel, but you may also be given them to help with constipation. If the pelvic floor muscles are weak, it can make it more difficult to empty the bowel. This in turn can create problems with leakage. So these exercises can help with both the emptying of the bowel and with incontinence. As shown here in this model, these are the surface muscles or superficial muscles to the pelvic floor. These provide further stability to keep things in place. If these are weak, it makes it more difficult to poo, and this can affect continence. And then there's the sphincters, or the ring muscles around the anus too. This shows you in more detail the anal sphincter muscles. There are two rings of muscle, an inner and an outer ring. The inner muscle we call the internal anal sphincter. This is shown here in light red, here on the side view, and here in a view from below. This muscle provides most of the anal tone to help to keep things sealed, but we can't exercise it. It's not under our voluntary control. We can't think about squeezing the muscle to give us more tone. The external anal sphincter is the outer muscle, shown here in a darker red in the side view, and here in the view from below. This muscle also provides some anal tone, around 20%, but it is under our voluntary control, so we can squeeze it and we can exercise it and make it stronger and thicker. This is the muscle that we use when we are trying to hold onto wind or poo, so exercising this muscle can really help with the control of our bowel. Thankfully, the deep and superficial muscles tend to work together as one exercise, though you may be given techniques to help focus on one more than the other if needed. So how do we do it? It's a really tricky exercise, and we're not expecting everyone to get this just through video guidance, but here are a few tips to help you get started. First of all, think about your breathing. The diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle, coordinates with our pelvic floor. So if you are breathing correctly, this can really help you with your exercises. First of all, rest a hand on your upper belly and just breathe normally. You should be able to feel a rise and fall here when you breathe. When we breathe in, the tummy moves out slightly. When we breathe out, this reduces the pressure in the pelvis and helps to make the pelvic floor draw in. So try and practice pulling your muscles in on the out breath. It's a bit like patting your head and rubbing your tummy to start with though. But bear with it, because it will help your muscles to work better and it will give you a better technique overall. Then when your muscles are on, try not to hold your breath. If you hold your breath, this will create more pressure in the tummy and that will push down on the pelvic floor and make it a lot harder for your muscles to work. Sometimes this can also make matters worse. Try to imagine as if you are stopping wind at the back and then stopping wee at the front. Another way of thinking about the pelvic floor is imagining spaghetti in the anus. Think about gently squeezing the spaghetti and pulling it inwards and forwards towards the pubic bone at the front. In the male, you could think nuts to guts. So this is where you think about lifting the scrotum inwards and towards your tummy. When you do the pelvic floor exercise, try not to squeeze your buttocks. These are much more on the outside and aren't your pelvic floor, and sometimes this will stop you making progress. Don't pull in your tummy. Particularly your upper tummy should stay nice and soft and squishy, and you should be able to keep breathing from here. Try not to hold your breath. Here are a few tips to help you. If you are struggling with the exercises, then consider doing a submaximal exercise. This is where you only pull in up to half of the effort of what you could do. This often gives a better technique. With pelvic floor, less is more. Sometimes we try so hard to get the muscle working, we end up using all the other muscles instead and lose focus on the pelvic floor. Doing a more gentle exercise can often help with the holding of the pelvic floor if you are struggling with this. You're also much less likely to be bracing your tummy or your buttocks. If you don't feel much happening with the pelvic floor, then consider a staggered lift. So rather than pulling it in all in one go, try to go up in a series of steps between the anus and the pubic bone at the front. Do this on a long breath out and go up a step at a time to see if this gives more sensation of a lift. If you notice that your buttocks are working when they shouldn't, try squeezing them first and then relaxing them. Then try to keep them relaxed. Find something more in the middle, a little bit deeper, and see if you can find a different sensation with your pelvic floor. Am I doing it right? It's a really tricky exercise. If you are struggling, then do seek help from a specialist nurse or physio. The only way to know if you are doing it correctly for sure is to be examined. This can be offered to you to give you some assurance if you are doing it correctly and to give you some feedback of how strong your muscles are. There are some things you can look for, though, to give you some guidance at home. First of all, try resting a finger on the perineum. This is the part here between the vagina and the anus on the female, or the scrotum and the anus in the male. You should find that this part moves inwards away from your finger if you rest a finger on there. You could alternatively use a mirror with a long handle. This part should move inwards away from the mirror. If at any point you are doing the exercise and it moves downwards towards the mirror, or pushes down on your finger, then stop the exercise, as this could make matters worse. If you don't notice any lift, I would carry on with the exercises, and over the course of a few weeks this should start to change. If it doesn't, then get in contact so we can offer you an examination. If you notice that the exercise is painful, again, stop your exercises. There are different types of pelvic floor exercises, depending on what your problems are. There are long holds. This helps to build up the general tone and support to the anus and the deeper pelvic floor. This is where you pull your muscles in and hold them while you keep breathing for up to 10 seconds. Then you rest them for 10 seconds, or however long you held them for, and repeat it about 10 times until the muscle is tired out. Consider the position that you are doing the exercises in. So, for example, if you start in sitting but struggle to hold the muscle on for very long, or they tire very quickly, then you might wish to make it easier by lying down. If you can easily do 10 lots of a 10-second hold, though, you may wish to make them harder by trying them in standing. As you progress with your exercises, keep progressing the position. We usually need these muscles when we are standing and walking. There are also fast exercises. These help to generate the quick power to your muscles for things like coughing, jumping, or being able to quickly close off the anus after a poo to make it easier to wipe clean. Aim to pull the muscle in within a second, let it go within a second, pull it in within a second, let it go within a second, and repeat this around 10 to 20 times or until they have tired. This is usually when they start to slow down. It's really important with these exercises that you rest your muscle fully before pulling it back in again. Imagine your pelvic floor a bit like a trampoline where it has to drop all the way down before pulling all the way back up again. Submaximal exercises. These are really useful if you have to get to the toilet urgently. Also practice these if you are struggling to hold the pelvic floor muscles on for very long. This is where you pull up to half the effort of what you could do, as we practiced earlier. You then gradually try to hold it for longer, so you may start with 5 seconds, go up to 10, then 20, and then 30 seconds. Then how often do we do them? We are aiming to practice them on a daily basis, ideally 3 times a day. But I'd start with once a day, making sure you're doing it correctly and ensuring that you are tiring the muscle out. We need to do them in blocks of exercises. We know that doing little bits here and there don't make any difference to strengthening the pelvic floor. Focus on whichever is hardest for you or you have been advised to work on. Consider your position that you start in and make sure that you progress this as the exercise gets easier. Also consider the knack, which is trying to get your muscles to work at the same time as coughing, sneezing, lifting, pushing and pulling. So what should you expect? In the early stages, your muscle is learning, so it should become easier to do the exercise in this time. It may also start to reduce the need to rush to the toilet. But it takes longer to improve the thickness and create more tone and support of the muscle, which is usually around 3 to 4 months. If things are improving, you need to continue with them for an average of 6 to 9 months on a daily basis. When you have got as far as you can with pelvic floor exercises, maintenance is important, so aim to practice them in a block on a weekly basis for life. If you are struggling, there are a few options to help you. One is biofeedback, which is using a computer to show you what the muscles are doing to help with learning. There is also electrical stimulation, which gives you the feeling of a correct pelvic floor lift by stimulating the muscle for you. This should not be painful. This can be used if the muscle is struggling to achieve this on its own and to help you learn what the exercise should feel like. This should only be used temporarily and support provided for you to progress to exercises without assistance in most cases. If you are struggling with the exercises, not feeling any progress, not sure if you are doing it correctly, or are showing signs of an incorrect technique, then do contact our service. Our helpline is stated on here, and we can offer you further advice and guidance.